Hi, YouTube. I'm back again. I want to do this video about Harriet Tubman. I said I was going to come at least every day, but I haven't kept my promise about doing something about black women for African American History Week. So I apologize. I just get kind of sidetracked, or some days I just don't feel like making a video. But today I was in the mood, but it's such a cloudy day, and the lighting's not too good, but at least you can hear me. And I'm going to talk about Harriet Tubman. I'm going to read a little bit about her, but we all know about Harriet Tubman. And when I first heard about her, I had to be in elementary school. And back then, kids didn't ask questions. I mean, we might raise our hand up for something, but we very seldom ask questions. And they told us that Harriet Tubman was in charge of the Underground Railroad. I don't know how many children thought the way that I did, but I actually thought that there was an underground railroad with tracks and stuff like that. I thought they had dug a hole and the slaves were getting on a train and actually going somewhere, going to freedom. And that just show you how simple-minded children can be. We were simple-minded. Kids like today are not like that. But thought I'd just put that little tidbit in. And that's probably why I took the Bible so literally and just hell and everything else. We were just afraid of everything and believe everything we heard, but had it wrong, totally wrong. But I'm going to read just a little bit about Harriet Tubman. This is from Wikipedia. There's a lot of information. I mean, God, so much. But I'm going to read it all in my own private time because it's amazing. It says, she was born around 1822, and she died March 10th, 1913. Was an American abolitionist, humanitarian, and an armed scout and spy for the United States Army during the American Civil War. Born into slavery, Tubman escaped and subsequently made some 13 missions to rescue approximately 70 enslaved families and friends, using the network of anti-slavery activists and safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. She later helped abolitionist John Brown recruit men for his raid on Harper's Ferry, and in the post-war era was an active participant in the struggle for women's suffrage. Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit. Okay, in 1849, let me sit up here. 1849, Tubman escaped to Philadelphia, then immediately returned to Maryland to rescue her family. Slowly, one group at a time, she brought relatives with her out of the state and eventually guided dozens of other slaves to freedom. Traveling by night and extreme secrecy, Tubman, or Moses as she was called, never lost a passenger. After the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was passed, she helped guide fugitives further north into British North America and helped newly freed slaves find work. Okay, now we're going to skip a little bit. It says when the Civil War began, Tubman worked for the Union Army first as a cook and nurse, and then an armed scout and a spy. The first woman to lead an armed expedition in the war, she guided the raid at Combahee Ferry, which liberated more than 700 slaves. After the war, she retired to the family home on property she had purchased in 1859 in Auburn, New York, where she cared for her aging parents. She was active in women's suffrage movement until illness overtook her and she had to be admitted to a home for elderly African Americans that she had helped establish years earlier. Okay, we're going to skip a little bit. So many pages of it. Let's see. When she was a child, she was assigned to the big house and had scarce time for her family. Subsequently, as a child, Tubman took care of a younger brother and a baby, and was typical, and as was typical large families. When she was 5 or 6 years old, Broadus hired her out as a nursemaid to a woman named Miss Susan. She was ordered to help with the baby as it slept. When he woke up and cried, she was whipped. So you got two people crying, the baby and the slave. She found ways to resist running away for 5 days, wearing layers of clothing to protect her against the beatings and fighting back. Oh, okay, so they would beat her. As an illiterate child, she had been told Bible stories by her mother. The particular variety, we don't know what's wrong with my reading today. The particular variety of her early Christian belief remains unclear, but she acquired passionate faith in God. She rejected the teachings of the New Testament that argued slaves to be obedient and found guidance in the Old Testament tales of deliverance. Let's talk about her head injury. As a child in Dorchester County, Sonny, stop it. As a child in Dorchester County, Maryland, Tubman was beaten by masters to whom she was hired out. Early in her life, she suffered a massive head wound when hit by a heavy metal weight. The injury caused disabling epileptic seizures, headaches, powerful vision, and dream experiences, which occurred throughout her life. One day, the adolescent Tubman was sent to a dry goods store for supplies. There, she encountered a slave owned by another family who had left the fields without permission. His overseer, furious, demanded that she help restrain him. She refused, and as he ran away, the overseer threw a 2-pound weight at him. He struck her instead, which she said broke my skull. She later explained her belief that her hair, which had never been combed and stood out like a bushel basket, might have saved her life. Bleeding and unconscious, she returned to her owner's house and laid on the seat of a loom, where she remained without medical care for 2 days. She was sent back to the fields with blood and sweat rolling down her face until she couldn't see. God, that's something, man. But family marriage. She was married. It says around 1844 she married a free black man named John Tubman. Although little is known about him or their time together, the union was complicated because of her slave status. Since the mother's status dictated that of the children, any children born to Harriet and John would be enslaved. Such blended marriages, free people of color marrying enslaved people, were not uncommon in the eastern shores of Maryland, where by this time half the black population was free. Okay. Let's read about her escape. In 1849, Tubman became ill again, which diminished her value as a slave. Edward Broadus tried to sell her, but could not find a buyer. Angry at him for trying to sell her and for continuing to enslave her relatives, Tubman began to pray for her owner, asking God to make him change his ways. She said later, I prayed all night long for my master till the 1st of March, and all the time he was bringing people to look at me and trying to sell me. When it appeared as though the sale was being concluded, I changed my prayer, she said. 1st of March, I began to pray, oh Lord, if you ain't never going to change that man's heart, kill him. Lord, take him out of the way. A week later, Broadus died, and Tubman expressed regret for her earlier sentiments. Wow, so she prayed that the man would die and he would die. He died. I am really going to read this. I can't read it all on YouTube, but I suggest people go to Wikipedia and read his story. I mean, it's just amazing the power that we have as black women. And she had this power too. Let's see. I'm going to skip down. Oh, well, Harriet tried to escape several times. The second time, it says, soon afterward, Tubman escaped again, this time without her brothers. Beforehand, she tried to send word to her mother of her plans. She sang a coded song to Mary, a trusted fellow slave, that was a farewell. I'll meet you in the morning, she said. I'm bound for the promised land. While her exact route is unknown, Tubman made use of the network known as the Underground Railroad. This informed her well organized system, and it was composed of free and enslaved blacks, white abolitionists, and other activists. Okay. Tubman had to travel by night, guided by the North Star. The North Star. Yeah, that's the bright star. And trying to avoid slave catchers eager to collect wards for fugitive slaves. The conductors on the Underground Railroad used deception for protection. At an early stop, the lady of the house ordered Tubman to sweep the yard so as to seem to be working for the family. When night fell, the family hid her in a cart and took her to the next friendly house. Given her familiarity with the woods and marshes of the region, Tubman during the day likely hid in these locales. Tubman only later described her routes because other fugitive slaves had used them. And then she said something like, she said, when I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. Boy, I'm going to get ready to wrap up because I don't want to be on here more than 15 minutes. But Harriet Tubman lived to be 91 years old, and she died. She even had brain surgery because she had the surgery without anesthesia. She bit down on a bullet, and I guess she had seen somebody do that in the army, so she didn't have anesthesia, and they did brain surgery on her to stop the pain in her head from that injury she had when she was an adolescent. So she died from pneumonia, cause of death, pneumonia, age 91. That's amazing. Let me see if I can. Well, a picture of her is going to be on the $20 bill. I don't know when, but they've okayed it. I think they have. But Harriet Tubman, that's who we're talking about today. So go to Wikipedia and read information about her. And that's about it. And I'm going to let you guys go. And thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.